Hey, this is Jerry with On Point Wildlife Removal. If you think you might have critters in your attic like squirrels, bats, rats, or raccoons, give us a call today. We'll come out, we'll take a look, we'll give you a free quote to get them out, to seal up your home, and clean up whatever mess they left behind. We're locally owned and operated, and we're fully licensed and insured.
All right, everyone. This is Robert with the Space Coast Rocket, and we're continuing our one-on-one candidate interviews with everyone who's going to be on the ballot for the August primaries. And tonight we're going to have joining us is Chuck Sheridan. He's going to be a candidate for to be our next Florida State Senator. For our current Senator Debbie Mayfield is termed out. She's running for another office now. So this is an open seat. And for the Republican primary, there's two Republicans that are running for this seat, with Chuck Sheridan being one of them. And that's who we're talking to tonight. This is an opportunity we've extended to every single one of the people that are going to be appearing on the ballot in August. And we've done this instead of doing debates, so that gives candidates more time to give more substantive answers and kind of take a deeper dive into the issues that are important to them and that they want to discuss, and tell the constituency a little bit more about themselves. So that's what we've offered to everyone. And tonight we have Mr. Sheridan, and we'll jump right into it. Chuck, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Excuse my appearance. I just had cataract surgery this week, so I can have a clear vision for the future.
I hear you. Well, we'll jump right into it. And just so everyone knows, that all the candidates get the same questions, and they get the questions ahead of time. This isn't to be a gotcha type style interview. This is just so that candidates are prepared to be able to give you the best responses for the issues that they want to discuss. And so the very first one is the easiest one probably, and it's just, can you introduce yourself and give us a brief history about your background?
Sure. I'm Chuck Sheridan. I'm candidate for Senate District 19, which is a brand new district. It's for the first time in Florida history that Brevard County senator in Tallahassee, not a multi-county county district. I think that's important to have somebody here who grew up in this county, lived through the history of it. I grew up in North Carolina. My mother still lives. My dad built in the 60s. My brother was on tour. My sister lives on Merritt Island. Cousins and nieces and nephews throughout the county. Friends that I grew up with. This district needs somebody that knows the history of Brevard County, and somebody that knows how one anomaly from the space exploration can devastate.
Let me interrupt you for a second, Chuck, because I think
I have experience in capacity. I know how to get on there. See, two good appointments. Been appointed to multiple boards, sat on multiple committees, sat on the governance and construction education outreach committee that formulated the plan on how to educate them, what to do before, during, and after.
Can I hold you up for a second, Chuck? Can you hear me?
Pardon? Yes.
Your microphone, I think you might have on, there's an option to reduce background noise maybe, because you're cutting in and out a lot all of a sudden.
Oh, am I?
Okay, that sounds better. Yeah, you might have just had to adjust it there.
Okay. Give me the other microphone. Let me put the other microphone.
Okay. Yeah, we could hear you, but it kept kind of going in and out like there was like a noise cancellation or something going on.
Okay.
But I just want to
Got a
make sure
separate-
he has a chance to hear you.
There, now we've got,
No.
is that better?
That sounds better. Yeah.
Okay, I've received 2 senatorial appointments. I've gone through senatorial confirmation with my gubernatorial appointments. I've
It's
got
still
45 years business experience in general contracting. I've had to deal with at all levels, local and federal.
it's
So,
still cutting out a little bit, Chuck. Do you? It's still cutting out a little bit, maybe if you could disconnect your microphones and maybe just use the phone microphone,
Okay.
that might work better.
How's that better?
Yeah, go ahead and let's see how it sounds.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that sounds
All
good.
right.
There you go.
All right. Do you want me to start over, or we?
Yeah, I mean,
Question.
you don't have to start all the way over, but I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to hear you. Some of the people in the comments were saying that it was sounding a little funny, but I just want to make sure everyone has an opportunity to hear.
Okay. I grew up here in Brevard County. I've lived through the anomalies with the space collapse, or watched my friends and families in Brevard County, and we're relying on this industry, and the anomaly for our economy. And we need somebody that knows that history and knows, how it affects.
Okay.
And I received 2 gubernatorial appointments. I've gone through 2 Senate confirmations. I've been in Tallahassee, and been an executive with Governor Bush, institute rule before going through the whole process to, so that we could expedite the recovery from the hurricane in 2004. But
We're still having some problem with the sound cutting in and out. I'm not sure what this, because right before we started, it was sounding great. So I'm not sure what might be affecting that.
okay. Well,
Let me move to the next question. We'll see how it sounds. And the next question is going to be, what motivated you to run for state senator?
okay. I want to give back to the community that I call, this community has been good to me. I raised my family here, and as this district is no longer a multi-county district, I think it needs somebody that has a history of living here. And
Let me see. Let me see if I can fix this. Hold on. Okay, try now. I just tried to make an adjustment on this side.
Okay. I want to get back. There comes a point in your life, you have a lot of experience, knowledge, and I'd like to use Tallahassee. I've got the experience and the time to do it. I recently lost my wife, and so I've got 100% of my time to devote to the job. And I feel that the residents of Brevard County need somebody that knows the history and is their friend and neighbor to represent them in Tallahassee.
I got you. And it looks like we got that sound issue resolved. I can hear you perfectly now. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's been resolved. All right. So what are your top 3 issues that you think are facing the state, and how do you plan to address them?
Well, I plan on introducing legislation to completely restructure our insurance industries at all levels. Homeowners and automobile insurance rates have skyrocketed through Florida. Many of our residents, including senior citizens and families, can no longer afford insurance coverage and are either going without without coverage at all are moving away from the area or out of state. We need to fix this problem, and I want to address it and get that problem fixed so that we're not taxing people out of their homes. The small businesses are being forced out of business because of high taxes and not being able to compete with the large companies that are coming in. And we can create insurance consortiums where they can consolidate their businesses and lower their liability coverage and healthcare coverage for small businesses, and allow them to compete with the large companies and stay in business, not be forced out of business. And we all have concerns with our inland waterways.
Right.
Yeah, those of us that have lived here since the beginning, I remember my father taking the Space Center, and we'd see millions of flamingos, and the water was pink from the pink shrimp, and you could see, you could dip horseshoe crabs at Tingley's Fish Camp, and that was a common sight, and that's no longer here. It's gone. Sadly, the abundance we once saw has been devastated by damage to our waterways. I've been working with the our Brevard County Save Our Indian River Lagoon scientists, and looking at the state level and reading back a lot of the history and looking at causes of what is the actual causes of our lagoon system, and there are many. Gerald Ford in 1975 signed the act that created the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge monument refuge, just like Mount Rushmore, falls under the same category. And in that act, it says that the federal government shall maintain the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge in its primitive, pristine condition. And that the wildlife refuge includes the Banana River, Indian River, and Mosquito Lagoon from 528 north. I'm identifying the problems and the reasons that it's digressed, and I've already found potential federal and state funding to support the restoration, so that we don't have to have another half-cent tax that we shouldn't have had to start with, so that we can get our waterways back to where they were. Once in Tallahassee, I'll fight for the funding to relieve the financial burden that the Brevard County residents have placed on themselves. We're a community that believes in the environment. That after the space shuttle was ended, we imposed a half-cent sales tax when we had the highest unemployment in almost the history of Brevard County, just to restore our lagoon systems. I've seen the economic downturns in the community following a space exploration related anomaly, and we're not a place that just reaches for the stars. We go there.
Right.
And it's my goal to bring a diversified high-tech jobs to the area. I've been talking to IT, AI businesses, several industries on coming to Brevard, because we have the talent here. We've got the high IQ population,
Right.
to attract these type of employers. And I want to make Brevard County and the Space Coast not dependent on the space industry, because we've got two possible anomalies right now that could devastate our economy.
Yeah, and we just recently experienced, even with the success of SpaceX with their, very successful, record of launch attempts, they just had their first incident, and I think over almost 400 launches where they had an incident overseas. That could very well happen here. Thankfully, it didn't happen here, but I think it happened over in Germany, if I'm not mistaken. But we're just one big mistake away from having a disaster here on the Space Coast, and we got to make sure that we aren't, monopolizing everything into one industry. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, knowing the history and being a part of the history is vital, I think, for this position. You know, and your next question?
Yeah, so the next question would be, what key pieces of legislation do you plan to sponsor or support?
Ah, let's see.
We skipped a question.
You skipped one of your questions, but that's okay. I plan on total insurance reform at all levels: medical, automobile, homeowners, business. The insurance company lobbies have been successful in influencing our legislatures in their favor, and I'm going to work hard to swing the pendulum back to our residents. You know, I don't take any money from any political action committees or special interest groups, and I wouldn't vote on anything that I received money on from a political action committee or a special interest group that profits from changes in legislation. You know, I believe in transparency in government and campaign finance. I've reviewed a lot of legislation that has been passed in recent years, and my research frequently shows that the ones that sponsored the legislation have received money from the special interest groups that benefit from the legislation. We're not elected to represent special interest groups. We're there to represent the people, and that's what I'll do.
Yeah, and I think everyone's, insurance is on the forefront of everyone's mind, especially right now with the, hurricane season is kicking off. Thankfully, we dodged that one that unfortunately went around us and hit Houston. But we're just at the very beginning of hurricane season, and people are scared and afraid. And if they have insurance, they can barely afford it. So, and it seems like there hasn't been a lot of action to take into to fix this issue that is just bankrupting so many families here, not just on the Space Coast, but statewide.
Yes, that's true. You know, the other item that we need to address statewide is our concurrency laws are 30 years old. And, you know, that was my business, is development and construction. And I know what they are. And we need to update our concurrency laws to ensure that we've got the appropriate infrastructure in place prior to permitting projects, and closing the loopholes that are allowing tax credits for projects. Well, when that happens, it shifts the burden of building the infrastructure to the residents that are already in their homes. And I just don't think that's fair or just to the people that live here. We need tax exemptions for property taxes for senior citizens who've lived in the same house for a generation. That are being taxed out of their houses because they live on Social Security. And my mother, for instance, her Social Security, her property taxes are 50% of what she receives in Social Security. And people can't afford that. I think that we need to address how the elderly are taxed on their property that have remained in their homes and wish to stay and live in the community that they love.
Yeah, and that your answer to that question kind of goes into the question that I skipped here by accident. So let me go back to that one. And then it was, how do you plan to improve education, healthcare, and public safety, in the state of Florida?
Okay. Public safety is at risk in our municipalities. We simply do not have the funds available to maintain the infrastructure, such as roads, emergency services, and keeping up with our exponential growth that we're going through. And it's going to continue. We're going to continue in urban sprawl all the way out to the St. Johns River. I seek to, find federal and state funds to support and assist the needed people in Brevard County, in particular, experiencing challenges in retaining emergency responders due to the fact that our first responders are significantly underpaid in compared to our surrounding communities. And if we can make legislation that aligns the pay scale, it would allow us to retain more of our first responders, so that we don't train them and then they go to work for another community, neighboring community, for more pay. Uh, we we need to keep our first responders that we train, and keep them happy, and help save our lives. The state of Florida has a shortage in many specialties of licensed healthcare providers. I intend to work to expand licensed reciprocity from other states to encourage new professionals to relocate to Florida, to help with our healthcare industries and our lack of doctors. And uh, our school teachers situation. Most of our school board budgets, are top heavy, allowing higher pay for administrators and board members than the teachers make. Many of our teachers leave the field due to not, of having low pay and not being able to teach. So the way they should teach, how their students need to learn. The teacher knows more in the classroom what the students need than an administrator does 40 miles away. We need to look at this issue and correct it so that our teachers can teach, our students can learn, and it not burden us with undue taxes.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue that's again right there at the forefront of everyone's mind. Talking about education and teacher funding, I think Florida ranks either second to last or last when it comes to teachers' pay, and everyone knows a teacher that they grew up with that just stands out in their mind, that made an impact on their life, and they're truly shaping our future, for the state and for this country. And we have to make sure that we're getting the best of the best, if it's
Yeah.
truly a priority. And make sure.
My own stepdaughter was a teacher. That was her life goal, and she had to give up teaching and took a higher paying job out at the Space Center, and she taught advanced physics and statistics at an AP school. So it is a problem, and we need to keep the better teachers. And but
Yeah, I'm with you, and it doesn't take much to find a better paying job, than a teacher. So it's very attractive, especially the way the economy is right now, with people struggling with the property insurance rates and things like that. You might not want to leave teaching, but they may have to do it out of necessity, just because they got to be able to make a affordable living so that they can live their lives. So it's definitely an issue that we got to address.
Yes.
We did get a question here in the comments from one of the viewers. This is from Corey Brown. He says, "What's your stance on helping our local veterans?" Brevard County is, I think, it may be number one in the country for veterans per capita. If not, it's way up there. So we have a huge veteran community here in the Space Coast. So what's your plans on views on how to help the local veteran community?
Well, that one is dear to my heart. I play golf with the veterans at Indian River Colony Club, and a lot of my friends, most of my friends are veterans, and there's a lot of struggle, especially when one passes and leaves a widow or widower. There's not, it's too difficult for them to get help. I mean, I've gone to a lot of the American Legion and different VFW groups, and talked to them, and heard what their issues are, and I'll continue to do that, and and get them the help. There's I think we just had a suicide on the Bright Line that was a veteran that couldn't get the help he needed, and we need to look out for our veterans. They looked out for us and, put their life on the line for us, and we need to make sure that they stay protected as they age. It's near to my heart.
And I certainly appreciate that response, Chuck. I'm a retired military veteran myself, and I've covered a lot of those unfortunate incidents out there, with the Bright Line trains and elsewhere. And the federal government has failed in a lot of ways when it comes to the VA and veterans affairs. And but as a state, we can kind of pick up the slack, for where the federal government has failed us. There's an ongoing joke, if someone had told you they would pay you $1 million if you could call somebody and they wouldn't answer the phone, who would you call? And every veteran says, "Oh, the VA." Yes, I'll be a millionaire. So hopefully that's something we can address and get some good legislation passed to help our veteran community out.
Well, one thing they will be able to do is when I'm in Tallahassee, they'll be able to call me, and I will make calls that will get answered.
That's
So
yeah. I mean,
that
and
I will always be open to the public to be able to reach me. That's one of the key things. So
the next question is, how will you work with other legislators to pass effective laws? You got to have, with any proposed legislation, you have to have a companion bill, in your case, in the House, and then you got to get that passed on both sides. So what's that look like for you? How are you going to accomplish those things?
well, people that know me know that I'm pretty persuasive. Having been in business for 45 years, negotiating contracts, I've got a great deal of experience with negotiating. I do my research, and I'm willing to work across party lines for the betterment of the state. We already have laws on the books that conflict with one another, and I plan to be diligent with my research and ensure that any new legislation is passed is aligned with existing legislation. We've got a law in Florida that says if a law can't be equally enforced, it's unenforceable. And that's, so I will do. I've got the experience in negotiating, and once I'm in Tallahassee, I represent everybody, not just Republicans, Democrats, nonpartisans. I'll represent Brevard County and the Space Coast and the people of Florida.
And it's kind of refreshing to hear that. And I know this wasn't one of the prepared questions, but kind of along those lines, politics lately has become extremely polarized, and divisive, especially with some of our local politicians. I think even with, one of the individuals you're running against, it's almost the opposite of what you just stated. They want to represent only a specific group of people, and if you don't fall within that group, then they could just care less and want you to go somewhere else or just be eliminated. So I think it's important that more politicians start thinking and governing, just like you said, to represent that entire constituency, not just the people that voted for you or may align with you ideologically. Is that the right word? Ideology, yeah. But just being a statesman and being a representative for everybody. So I think that's just something we got to get back to. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I want to correct you on something. I'm not running against anybody. I think there is somebody that's running against me, but I plan on being a statesman and looking out for the people. And somebody asked me recently what was the number one thing that I could bring to the Senate, and I said unity, because I think that's what it lacks the most right there is unity. And we're all there to make laws for the betterment of the state. Not special interest groups or a certain party. We're there to represent the people. And that's what I plan on doing, with full transparency.
I mean, it's literally in the name of our country, the United States, and I think that some of us have to be reminded of that. But the next question kind of runs right into that, and it's how will you engage with and listen to the concerns of your constituents? You know, every legislative session, the Brevard delegation has a meeting where they invite the public to come express their concerns or their ideas and other organizations. And sometimes those meetings go very well, but there are some elected officials that don't listen, and they're more focused on the special interest groups or the lobbyists that get paid to bring these issues to them. But I've been to all of those meetings, and I've seen personally where certain elected officials will get up and just leave or just fall asleep. You know, so again, the question is, how do you engage and listen to the concerns of your constituency?
Well, I've already been doing that. I've been attending when I was thinking about running, and I've been doing it for years anyway. But I've been attending city council meetings, county commission meetings, business organizations, veterans groups, not-for-profit groups, meeting with the people in the community, preparing myself for this to see what the needs of the people are, and they're a little bit different than what I actually thought they were. There's concerns. There's we've got 528 that's going to be widened starting next year. That is going to be controlled by 7 different transportation authorities, and we're getting 7 new bridges in Brevard County on that project. And one of the people I met with, her concern was she lives on 528, and they don't have a sound wall, and that's required on highways. And I looked into it and then discovered that we're having the widening, that it is part of the widening of the highway. But the wall needs to go up first, and I make myself. I've been attending these meetings. I've been listening. I haven't been campaigning at them. I went to City of Cocoa Beach's city council meeting last night, and they're looking at funding for their stormwater runoff, and I brought up something that they had not, that wasn't discussed as a possible source of funding in the public comments. But I've been, I'm out there talking to the community leaders, and hearing what they have to say, and I'll address them when I get to Tallahassee.
Okay. I'm skip one question because it kind of falls into place with what we just discussed. But the next one would be, what are your core values, and how do those values influence your decision making?
Well, I pride myself that I've always conducted myself in an ethical manner. I respect the people around me. I respect people's opinions, whether they agree with me or not. They're entitled to their opinion. And I'll continue to do so with complete transparency and open communication with my constituents. They can call me anytime. When I'm not in session, I'll still be attending the meetings and in our county commission, city council meetings, and have an open door policy. I mean, they can knock on my front door if they'd like. I will have an open door policy to hear everybody's views, because one person has a problem. It's generally not just that one person. It's generally a lot of people that have the same problem. So listening to the people, I think, is a lot more important than listening to a lobbyist or a special interest group that are out for their own profits. So
Okay. There's another question that's kind of come in here from the viewers. Chime in late. I'll circle back to listening at the beginning, but I would be interested, I guess, to hear discussion on your opinion of the state arts funding that was recently decimated. I think what she's talking about there, the governor almost ran out of ink with this veto pen, I believe, after this recent budget. And one of the things that got struck statewide was a lot of funding for arts projects in the arts community. And I think I wrote something about it, so I can't remember all the details off the top of my head, but there was kind of a blanket wide veto of almost any arts funding for arts projects, arts facilities, things like that. So I guess maybe she's just asking for your opinion about, the importance of arts in the community.
Well, you just hit one that's dear to my heart. I lost my wife. She went in the hospital on 9/11 of 2021. She'd fallen that morning, and that was the summer that you couldn't get into the hospital unless you had COVID. She did not have COVID, and our first responders came and they were diligent in finding a hospital to take her. And when I was able to get her home, and then she passed. I had not looked at my phone since I'd been in the hospital with her, and I opened my phone up, and there was a message calendar popped up with a message that said a must attend event for that evening, and another one for the next evening, and they were for auditions at Cocoa Village Playhouse and Surfside Playhouse on the beach, and I couldn't figure out how they got in my phone, and I recalled about a few weeks or a month earlier that she had seen them on Facebook and told me that perhaps I should go audition. At least it would get me out of the house and not taking care of her 24/7. And so I went to stand up, and she had lost one of her diamond earrings that I had gotten her as a wedding gift in the hospital when they did a CAT scan on her, and nobody returned it. And when I stood up, I was wearing Crocs and I have a tile floor, and I heard a scratching on the tile floor, and I took my shoe off and I looked at it, and this diamond earring was stuck in the bottom of I'm sorry if I'm choking up a little bit, but stuck in the bottom of my shoe. And I went out, and my son was just getting ready to go to the airport. He was the last one to leave. And I told him about it, and he said, "Dad," he goes, "you need to go to these auditions. If you don't, you'll regret it the rest of your life." And he says, "I don't care if your life goes great or goes to crap." He goes, "You've got to go." And we had a service dog for my wife that would alert me when she was having difficulty breathing, a little Pomeranian. And so that evening I went to the Cocoa Village Playhouse with my 7-pound Pomeranian in my hands and read for a part. Of course, I didn't get it. The next night I went to Surfside, and my mother watched my dog for me, and Brian, the director out there, he cast me in Inherit the Wind as Jesse Dunlap, farmer and cabinet maker. And I'd never been involved in that any kind of plays or anything. I did one semester of drama in high school, but I think it really had the arts, community theater and stuff does more good for the community than I had ever dreamed it did. It got me in a place where I am now. Made new friends that want you to succeed, because if you don't, the play doesn't.
Right.
And I'm very heartfelt about that. It's the Surfside Playhouse out of Cocoa Beach has been there for 60 years, and they're struggling, and they could use the grants. And they to me, they do, people I've met there and what I see, what they do. And I've been involved in almost every play, either, on stage, backstage, or a volunteer since then. And I'll continue to do so. But yes, I do support the arts, and I think they deserve the funding that they get.
That's a very touching story, and and what a fitting question and timely question to be asked. And it's just, you almost got me choked up, telling that story and with the earring and everything. And
Well, I wear it because now, it wasn't the first time she'd lost the earring. She'd lost it once before. And I was working on an estimate and had my feet up on the chair, and she walked by and it was stuck in the bottom of my flip flop. So my son said, "Dad, I don't care if you believe it's a message or you guys are just sloppy with your jewelry and it's not that big of a house."
yeah.
But but she whispers in my ear. It gives me a little pause when I make a decision of what her opinion would be on it.
Yeah.
So
And you're right. Brevard County has a very rich history and community in the arts with Space Coast Playhouse, and especially Cocoa Village Playhouse. I mean, this is their 100th year anniversary this year. 100 years that place has been there. I recently took a tour there, and there's just so much history, rich history in there. And if people haven't gone there to experience it, a lot of people don't even know it's there. But once you go there and experience it, you'll become addicted to it. You'll really appreciate the volunteers in this community that put those shows on. It's just a tremendous asset that we have in this community.
yeah, when I was a child, they used to have matinee movies there on the weekends, and we'd go there, and I mean that was a different time, but it was yeah. Yeah, it's been there a long time. We've got a long history of the arts, and and we've got talent here that you would not believe.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm just blown away, especially with the younger kids that put on some of these shows here. Like they seem like they should be on Broadway, but I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're here.
they should be. I've got one friend from the Playhouse that I asked if he was going to vote for me. He said he'd chew his arm off before he ever voted for a Republican. And then he sent me an email the other day. He changed parties to vote for me.
Oh, wow. Talk about drama, right? All right. Well, good. Well, we only got a couple of questions left. This is kind of a good one. How do you plan to handle conflicts or disagreements within the state legislature? I know you talked about your negotiating skills, so I'm sure that's part of it. But what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, my years as an independent businessman has given me a great deal of especially in the construction industry. I'm dealing with conflicts and disagreements. Whether it be between contractors or building departments. I've got good communication skills, great negotiating skills. I get hired as a consultant to negotiate. I'll work with my colleagues in the Senate and the representatives of the communities. And I know that we won't agree. That our goals won't align all the time, but I'll work together with them to find a common ground, what's in the best interest of Florida. And, I can be persuasive. I got the perseverance, and my favorite number is pi. So I could talk forever until they agree with me. So
I like that. I haven't heard that one before. Okay. This isn't probably the last real question is, why should voters choose you over your opponents?
well, I plan to represent the residents of Brevard County and as I would want to be represented. And I want to be their voice in Tallahassee and address their needs and work with my colleagues to ensure that I do everything in my power to get their needs accomplished and do what's in the best interest of our community. And I'm not seeking endorsements from or funds from special interest groups or political action committees. Matter of fact, one of the things that touched my heart was a few weeks ago. I got a call out of the blue from Scott Ellis, who's one of our most respected clerk of the courts I think we've ever had in Brevard County, asking me, if he could endorse me or what he could do to help me with my campaign. And he sent me an endorsement letter, and that 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 made this whole thing worthwhile. That showed that that people care, and the people that I respect care, and I will work hard for it. I've got nothing else to do but to be your state senator 100% of the time, 365 days a year.
Well, I mean,
I'm your neighbor. I'm I'm not just going to be your senator. I'm your neighbor. I'm your friend. You can call me anytime. I'm part of Brevard County. This is my home. There comes in your life, time in your life when you can either sit back and see if you can watch everything on Netflix or do something, with what you've learned in life to give back to the community. And I choose to do that. And, I want to give back to the community that's been so good to me.
well, and that's, I don't think there's much more that people can ask for than that. It would certainly be a refreshing change to some of the status quo right now. I mean, we have elected officials in this county right now that literally have their public office door locked, from the public, and literally hide, from the public in those taxpayer funded offices. So we would really appreciate, being able to have access to, the people that we've elected to represent us. So that's, I mean, I think as long as people know that that's where you stand, you shouldn't have a problem. So
They can email me anytime at chuck@votechucksheridan.com, and I will respond and answer. I've got, Facebook pages, Instagram, Telegram, X. I can be reached pretty much any way you want to reach me.
and that was going to be my last question: is how can people get a hold of you or find more information about you? So you have, is it Chuck? What is it? The website?
The website, I've been having a little problem with it, but it's votechucksheridan.com, and we've got Charles Chuck Sheridan on Facebook. I've got at Vote Chuck Sheridan on Instagram. I think Telegram and YouTube are all the same things, at Vote Chuck Sheridan. But you can email me at chuck@votechucksheridan.com, and I check it daily. I get up about 4:30 in the morning and start checking my messages and emails, and then go on with the rest of my day.
Well, Chuck, I appreciate that, and thanks for providing that information. Is there anything else that you want to say that we might not have covered, or anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
I think we've covered a lot of it. You got me where I got a little heartfelt here, and I want to thank you for the interview. It's been very good. Your questions were very well thought out, and I appreciate your time. And
I'm sorry about those audio issues at the beginning. We'll see if we can do something to address that. But I want to thank you for taking the time to come here and sit with us and talk with the community, let everybody get to know you a little bit, probably more than we thought we would. So appreciate you sharing those the very personal and touching story with us as well. And we'll be wishing you luck on the election.
thank you very much.
All right.
You have a good day and a wonderful weekend.
You too. And again, everyone, this is a opportunity we extend to everyone that's on the ballot, for August, and we'll also be doing this in November for the general election. But this round is for the people who are on the ballot in August. We are offering it free of charge. There are other outlets out there that are charging people to do this, but we offer it for free. We'll allow any candidate the opportunity to come on here, and plead their case to our large and engaged audience. It's up to you whether you choose to do so or not. We sent an email to everyone. If you didn't get that email, shoot us a message and I'll send you the link where you can sign up to do the interview, and we'll shoot you over the questions and get you scheduled. And again, thanks to our audience for participating and asking their questions as well. We always try to entertain those for those that take the time to watch and engage as well. So with that said, everybody be safe. God bless you. Have a great night.